Please like and subscribe.
I always promised myself I'd never be one of those hopeless drunks that asks his folks for money, you know? I'd sell everything I owned before that. And I did, I did. I sold my Sinatra records to one guy, my TV to another. I sold my toothbrush to a creep, but finally, that Friday crept around when I had no cash for beer and cigarettes, so I had to call my folks to ask for money. And they gave it to me. And then Sunday night crawled up on me and I was ass out again. And I called them again, and you know what they called me was hopeless. And they were right. They had no idea how right, because right after that call, I called up that creep that I sold my toothbrush to, and I sold him my folks. I sold him my fucking folks. I always promised myself I'd never be one of those hopeless drunks that sells his fucking folks, but here I am, totally hopeless because I sold my folks for booze. God only knows what he's doing with them. Hopefully not brushing their teeth, but I don't know. And what am I gonna sell now? I have nothing left to sell, so shit, I'm gonna have to get sober.
Wow. Thank you, Tony. Let's see. We have a new visitor in the group. Will you tell us your name?
Hi, I'm Turnip.
Hi, Turnip.
I'd just like to say that I really identified with the story of that last alcoholic. Tony, I hear your story, and it's like I'm reading a chapter of my life story because I'm 35 years old, and I am a Knicks fan. Lifelong Knicks fan. And I'll tell you, it has made life long.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. I know what it is to be hopeless. More so than most of you, because every drop of alcohol in the world could dry up tomorrow, and I'd still be a hopeless Knicks fan. Worse off than even a filthy drunk.
Excuse me. Turnip, was it?
Yes?
What are, I don't want to ask what you're doing here, but this is a group for alcoholics.
Yes.
Are you an alcoholic?
No, I'm a Knicks fan. I mean, of course I'm an alcoholic, I'm a Knicks fan, but that's not why I'm here today.
Why are you here?
I'm here because the New York Knicks are one win away from winning the NBA Finals.
And?
And I'm scared they're gonna do it.
Why does that scare you?
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
It could be. But what I know about good, I'm a Knicks fan. All I ever got good at was being hopeless.
All right. Well, the game is starting, and it'd be good if you went and watched it, because this is the group for people with serious problems, so...
No. The Knicks fan stays.
That's right, he's one of us.
Worse than you. You say you sold your folks. I'm not entirely sure what that even entails, but I know I'd sell my soul if it meant the New York Knickerbockers could win a championship.
It's not really as bad.
No, it's not as bad. But my point is this. How old are you? 40? 50?
30.
Jesus. Okay. 30 years old. So you probably started boozing at what, 15? You probably weren't truly hopeless till you were 20, maybe 25. So you've been hopeless for 10 years tops? Less than that? The Knicks have been hopeless for 53 years. More than my life.
But now they're gonna win.
But now they might win.
So you should be excited.
Should I? That is a genuine question because I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. Because I don't know who I am if I don't feel hopeless about the Knicks.
Well, that's not a winning attitude.
No, it's not. But you know who had a winning attitude? Richard Nixon. He won his second term last time the Knicks were in the finals. You know who has a winning attitude? My little cousin in Texas. He comes to the Big Apple and beats my ass at everything. Apples to apples, computer games, fucking Rubik's Cubes, and the last time the Knicks won the finals, not one of those things existed. He was raised by parents who taught him if you try hard enough, you can win at anything. And why shouldn't he believe it, you know? His team has won twice since he was born in 2007. I was raised by Knicks fans. You know what my father told me? He took me to see the Knicks play the Spurs in 1999. That's the last time we were in the finals. I said, Daddy, do you really think we can win? And my daddy pointed to the two beautiful banners hanging from the rafters in Madison Square Garden. And he said, son, if you try hard enough, you can see those banners in this graveyard we call a garden, staring down accusingly at the current Knicks, as though they were their wastrel sons who'll come to nothing. That was his son's happiest finals memory.
Before I sold my folks, they took me to the 1994 finals. My dad saved the paper from Game 4 that said, "Can the Knicks hope to end the 26-year drought?" The secondary story said, "Beloved football hero helps police with wife's murder investigation." And right under OJ's smiling face, there was a little ad that said, "Celebrate Season 5 of Seinfeld. Premiere party at the World Trade Center." Because back then, all that existed.
But do you know what didn't? When they last won, the World Trade Center opened its doors in 1974. Neither did DVDs or VHS or any movie ever about a superhero. Now there's 26 movies about Batman.
I like those Batman movies.
I like one of those Batman movies. One of them has a line that I like. The Joker is talking about how he would have no idea what to do if he won. And he says, "I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one." Now the Knicks are chasing a title. And every night, I have this recurring nightmare where a dog catches a car. I mean, imagine that. How strange it would be. Imagine you saw a Labrador catch the tailpipe of a Honda Civic like a fucking tennis ball. The car stops. The driver gets out, hands his keys to a dog, and walks away. Imagine the dog panting behind the steering wheel, with the road stretched out in front of him, his tail wagging back and forth like the windshield wipers which he accidentally turned on because he is a dog. What happens next?
Maybe he takes himself to the park.
Maybe. Or maybe he finds that when you spend your whole life being pulled by desire, getting the thing you want feels like death. What if that dog finally opens that steering wheel and realizes he was way happier when the car was moving away? What do you mean, opens the steering wheel? I've never driven a car. I'm from New York. I've never won either. What if I do? And worse, what if I don't? What if the dog crashes the car?
It seems very likely that a dog would crash its car, so you should probably prepare for that outcome.
What are these attitudes? How are the Knicks supposed to win with fans like these? I mean, seriously. You call them hopeless all day, and you wonder why they have no hope. Did you ever hear that story about the Knicks fan who went to San Antonio?
Yeah, that was in the paper, right? What did he do? Punch a nun?
No, this is an old story.
What do you mean, like from the 99 series? Or
Older. It's the story of a Knicks fan who traveled down to San Antonio. And the story goes that in the downtime before a game, the Knicks fan went downtown, hoping to find some food or someone in a Spurs jersey to paralyze, but he didn't find anyone. Because downtown San Antonio is an open expanse of dirty desert. Nothing but dirt and coyotes. And a coyote found the Knicks fan.
That's scary.
But the Knicks fan wasn't scared because he was from New York and mistook it for a subway rat. The Knicks fan thought to himself, "This thing's pretty big. Maybe if I follow it long enough, it'll lead me to whatever pizza parlor's been feeding it trash. Man, I'd kill for a slice right now." And the coyote howled. And as if by magic, a pizza appeared. And the Knicks fan thought to himself, "Wow, this pizza's pretty good. Maybe San Antonio's not so bad. Oh, I wish I hadn't bought that ticket to Game 3. I could have bought a house here for half the price." Then the coyote howled, and a beautiful house of adobe brick burst up from out of the ground, causing the startled Knicks fan to splatter his crust across his new concourse. And the Knicks fan said, "Holy heck! How am I going to keep up with this place? My whole life I've lived in apartments the size of a shoebox. To clean the floors, I just put on my shoes. Now I'm going to need one of those whatchamacallits, a maid." Then the coyote howled, and the door to the house opened, and out came Tony Parker, dressed like a French maid. And at last the Knicks fan caught on. Wow! As soon as I think of something, it comes. The second this weird rat opens its mouth. I should have been thinking about a beautiful woman willing to service sexually whatever man was closest to her. And of course, a window opened, and Tim Duncan's wife stuck her head out while whistling the theme to New York, New York.
The New Yorker's mating call.
That's right. And the Knicks fan thought to himself, that's not even right, fam. I'm starting to think this subway rat isn't just a subway rat. What if it's some kind of spirit, or maybe a magical monster, or some devil shit? And the coyote's shrill howl grew deep and guttural. It arched its back in agony as its hind legs grew 7 feet and 5 inches tall, and it stared down accusingly at the Knicks fan, growling in a thick French accent. And the Knicks fan thought to himself, I wonder if it's going to eat me. And it did.
Yeah, I think you should prepare for either outcome. Win or loss, you know. A man who always carries his umbrella is never scared of a rainy day.
That's a good point.
No, it's not. A man who always carries an umbrella is terrified of the rain. He keeps an umbrella when it's not raining. He's insane.
You know what? Katie's right. Failure is impossible.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your mindset makes your reality.
You're right, Katie. Failure is not an option. Failure is not possible. Right, that's the attitude. That's the truth. Failure is literally not possible. Well, failure is very possible. We have a failing economy. We're fighting a failing war, that greatest failure of democracy in which two nations battle for supremacy over one another, and the one which fails is destroyed. The New York Knicks have failed for 53 years, and it's entirely possible they'll fail tonight against the Spurs, just as they did in 1999. A year so far in the past, not one member of the Spurs starting five was born. When taking into account that in 1973, the last time the Knicks won, the Spurs didn't even exist, it is even likely that the Knicks will fail 3 times in a row and fall to the catcher's mitt-sized hands of Victor Wembanyama, and that the orange and blue balloons which hang from the highest rafters in Madison Square Garden will fail to fall this year. And in the event that we do fail to capitalize on this opportunity, our best shot at success in 53 years, an opportunity like it will fail to come again. And for another half-century, the theme from New York, New York will fail to play over a city of champions. Failure is not possible. Elaborate on that. I've told a lot of stories at a lot of meetings like this, but never this one. That's partly because I thought people would think I'm crazy, and partly because it has very little to do with my recovery. But you've inspired me on both those counts, Turnip. So I'll tell you the story of that rainy day in June 1994, when I found out failure had no hope for the future. The day that the captain told me about Frank. Okay. I was finishing lunch at Patsy's on West 55th Street. It was raining and I was dizzy drunk, but I still had the wherewithal to notice this guy getting waterlogged in my periphery. Big guy, hard not to notice, on account of he was both athletically built and very athletically dressed. And I don't mean a tracksuit or some early athleisure. He was in short shorts and a court-ready basketball jersey, because he was Pat Ewing. I don't know if anyone in our group needs to be told this. Katie, I know that you're a woman, so I'll say that Pat Ewing was the captain of the 90s Knicks. So, I asked him if he wanted to share my umbrella, and he asked where I was going. I said the World Trade Center. He asked if I wanted to split a cab back to Pennsylvania Plaza. I had to hail it for him on account of it was the 90s, and I remember it was awkward at first. I wished that I hadn't had so much to drink. I was too toasty to make small talk. And as if he'd heard what I was thinking, Pat Ewing opened his mouth in that instant and said, "What do you think about OJ?" I said, "OJ? I think about it after cereal and before I brush my teeth. How about you?" Pat said, "No, not the juice. The juice. OJ, the football hero from the Hertz commercials." I said, "Oh yeah, I remember him. I thought he was great when the Bills were winning. Couldn't say when I thought of him last. This was early June. But Pat said, do you think he's capable of a double axe murder? And as Pat said that, I heard this strange sound as his huge hands fidgeted with this weird little toy he had. It was a Rubik's Cube or something like that. I said, I don't know. I wouldn't like to think so of OJ or anyone involved with the Naked Gun films. But then I guess we never know celebrities so well as we think. Why do you ask? And Pat smiled. I heard he was up for that role as the robot in that movie from '84. The robot that does axe murders, Terminator. I said, oh really? Funny, I just bought that movie on VHS. And Pat became serious. He said, it is a funny movie, isn't it? Man creates artificial intelligence, and you think he's gonna use it to kill people? I said, maybe. We invest a lot in technology that kills people. Why? What do you think they'll use artificial intelligence for? And Pat sat, water dripping from his knee pads, and said, they're gonna use it to make the movies. I was like, maybe. I guess, yeah, Pat, that would be a money printing machine for the people in Hollywood. It's gonna kill Hollywood, snapped the captain. The movie-making robots are gonna kill Hollywood? I was smirking. And the music industry, Pat replied. And the economy. So I said, Cabby, can you turn up the radio? Not because I wasn't interested in Pat Ewing or his dark prophecies, but because New York, New York had come on. I said, I'd sure like to see a robot make music good as this. Finally, Pat lightened up. Never. Nobody makes them like Frank. I said, so what do you say, Cap? You seem to have a pretty firm grip on your crystal ball. Is this the year New York, New York once more plays over a city of champions? And again, we just made it to the finals, which is why I was so shocked when the Cap said, nope. I was incredulous. Nope. I sure hope you're wrong. I paid nearly $100 for tickets to Game 4. And Pat said the theme from New York, New York has never played over a city of champions. Because it was recorded in 1979, 6 years after the Knicks won their championship. I said, oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You scared me. I thought you boys were back to shaving points like you did in the 80s. So we're gonna beat those little cocksuckers from Texas, aren't we? Pat said, failure is impossible. I said, that's the spirit. This is gonna be our year. And Pat shook his head. Nope. This is the year John Stark shoots 2 for 18 in Game 7 and blows the best chance I'll ever have to win a ring. And I was like, what? With that attitude, it might be. I thought you said failure was impossible. Pat just pointed to the radio. Do you own this? It took me a while to realize what he was even saying, but I was like, oh, New York, New York? Sure, yeah. I mean, I live in New York. I think my apartment came with a copy of the single. Not the single, he said. The record. Frank Sinatra's trilogy. Past, present, and future. That record tells you everything you need to know about the future. I said, okay, well then it's well named. I didn't know you were such a Frankophile, Pat. Pat said, no. I like Frank. I love the future. It's by far the best part of the trilogy. I said, that's nice. And Pat said, most people only know New York, New York. But that was only one song on Frank Sinatra's only concept album. Trilogy. 3 parts. The first part was the past, standards, moldy oldies. The second part was the present, contemporary songs from the Beatles, Billy Joel, Elvis. But the third part, the future, was something else entirely. It was a sprawling science fiction opera in which a 70-year-old Frank Sinatra attempted to predict the 21st century. He imagined a colonized solar system with, like, slave planets, where all the planets were divided by class and like labor groups. Jupiter filtered the rain and provided water. Saturn grew crops, and Pluto housed the underclass, while Uranus was reserved for the rich. And if you're sitting here wondering if this is true, it's literally true. There is literally a line in Frank Sinatra's The Future where Frank sings, Pluto is Hades and Uranus is heaven. Frank Sinatra sings Uranus is heaven within 30 minutes of singing New York, New York. I said, is the record any good, or? Pat said it was a colossal failure. Sinatra scholar Pete Hamill called it an astonishing lapse in taste. I said, sounds about right. No, Pat growled as rain beat down over the roof. He didn't understand what it was. What was it? Then Pat leaned closer and held up his completely solved Rubik's Cube. A puzzle, he said. I said, a puzzle? What do you get when you solve it? He said, the future. I laughed. Pat didn't. He said, the future isn't just an album about the future. It's included in it. Encoded. If you take the lyrics, the spoken passages, and the orchestral cues in Frank Sinatra's The Future, and skip through them at precisely calibrated intervals, hidden truths come to surface. Prophecies, instructions, descriptions of events. I said, what events? And Pat just looked out the window. He said, all of them. If you know where to look, all of the future is in the future. The rise of China, the dawn of AI. I said, is Iverson really going to be that impactful? And he said, listen to me. I'm trying to tell you about the failure of the U.S. economy, the failure of the Seinfeld finale. You said you work in the Twin Towers? I said, yeah. He said, cut that out. I was like, cut that out? That's my livelihood. People find codes in anything if they stare at it long enough. Have you ever considered that these bad things keep happening because you expect bad things to happen? And Pat grimaced. Of course, I've considered that. I'm a New York Knick. Then with his long finger, he traced raindrops streaking down the window. Consider this. June 17th. We're gonna beat Houston 91-84 and take a 3-2 lead. I said, if that's true, it's only gonna convince me that the NBA is rigged. Pat shook his head. We're gonna beat Houston 91-84, and nobody's gonna be watching. I looked at him. What are they gonna be watching? The Juice. I said, the Jews? He said, the juice. 98 million people will be watching O.J. Simpson flee Los Angeles in a white Ford Bronco, while the network shrinks the NBA Finals into the corner of the screen. It's gonna be like a weird little split screen. They've never done anything like it. They'll never do anything like it again. I said, well, now you've gotten too specific, because I know that's not gonna happen. That's so silly what you said. I think you guys are just shaving points like back in the 80s. You know what Pat said? This series is gonna shave years off my life. Tack on a couple years of regret. I won't even get back to the finals for another 5 years. I thought he might be messing with me at first, but I remember the sorrow in his eyes as he stared out that rain-streaked window. 1999 will be a terrible year for New York. Seinfeld will end. The finale will suck. And on the same day it ends, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, the gin-drenched heart of Francis Albert Sinatra will finally fail. And mere months later, I will drag an exhausted 8th seed to the finals, where we will run into a 7-foot threshing machine named Tim Duncan, and the New York Knickerbockers will fail for the last time. Fail for the last time? So you mean we'll win the year after that? Pat said, nope. I said, the year after that? Pat said, nope.
I said the year after that, and the captain said Donald Trump will be president before the New York Knicks win. I gulped. And I remember thinking, well, I guess we could do a lot worse than a New Yorker as president. And Pat answered my thought. He said, you can't. You can't even imagine how much worse the country will do. Everything will fail. Decency, diplomacy, blockbuster home video. By the 250th American year, our national failures will be so all-encompassing, so relentless and total, that eventually, the New York Knickerbockers, the one American institution which has spent half a century perfecting the art of failure, will begin to fail at failing. And only then, when the world is Hades, and not one thing is as it should, when the New York Knicks can no longer even lose correctly, success will be the one mistake we have left to make. Then the cab pulled up to Madison Square Garden and I said goodbye. And before the cab took me to the World Trade Center, Pat said, "Hey, if you ever hear of a guy named Jay-Z dropping an album called The Blueprint, call in sick." I said, "It's 1994 and I'm white. Who's Jay-Z? Is he like the new Frank Sinatra?" And Pat smiled. "Yeah, he kinda is." And I guess that does have something to do with my recovery, because June 17th, 1994 was the day I stopped drinking. Wow. That's really, wow. Pat Ewing said that it'd be the 250th American year. Sinatra said it. 2026, year of the Knicks. Whew, okay, but what if he's wrong? You know what? I actually still have that TV that Tony sold me. I'm going to go ahead and put on the fourth quarter. Wow, it looks like a close one.
Look at all the stars sitting courtside. There's Larry David, and Jerry Seinfeld, and Epstein associate Robert Kraft, and Epstein associate Howard Lutnick.
Oh, and look, that's the creep I sold my folks to. Oh, wow, he brought him to Game 5.
And look there, at the guy standing between Spike Lee and Tim Chalamet.
Katie, that's Patrick Ewing.
I know who he is. Look what he's doing. He's getting up and leaving with less than a minute left on the clock. Why would he leave?
Why would he stay? He knows what's going to happen. Then that means...
Wemby tries a three, puts it up, off the mark, Anunoby the rebound. It's over! It's over!
Oh, that's really incredible.
I don't believe it! Believe it! For the first time in history, New York will play over a city of champions.
Actually, I guess it won't. Because they're still in San Antonio. Oh. Yeah. But still, I mean, how do you feel, man? I thought you'd be more excited. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I guess I feel like a dog who finally caught a car. And how's that? Well, everything's different, but kind of the same. Like, I don't know. I still don't know how to drive. So I'm mostly just sitting here, panting, waiting. Waiting? Failure has failed! After 53 years, the drought is set to 0. What are you waiting for? I don't know. I guess I'm just waiting for another car. What is that? Oh, a bunch of cars are stopped outside the window. It looks like something's blocking them. What? I don't know, some kind of monster or something. Like a big coyote or something blocking them in.
That's not a coyote. That's a subway rat.
And look at that, it's got a boombox on its back. What's it? Is it playing a